Is it the end of the DSLR camera? I'm sorry if that sounds like clickbait. And I was doom scrolling on the internet the other day and I came across an article on amateur photography that asked just that question. And it got me wondering. I thought, I'd not really thought about that the DSLR camera might be coming to the end of its life. And I then searched DSLR cameras, exactly the same question. And I was amazed to see that there's been web pages, articles written in all of the major camera publications for the last 2, 3, 4 years, all spelling the end of the DSLR camera. And it's not something I've even thought about, given any thought to at all, especially because on this channel in particular, I champion DSLR cameras. Even though I am an Olympus fanboy, I've often reviewed DSLR cameras, and I've said to you, if you're looking to get into photography, to move up from your smartphone, and don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting there's anything wrong with smartphone photography, because I do it all the time. But if you were looking to move up from your smartphone to get into photography for a dedicated camera, then you wouldn't go far wrong with picking something like this, a Canon 400D, and you could use that to get into photography. And I've said that a lot. Now I'm starting to think, is that really the right advice? Especially because the rise of the mirrorless camera and how much they're taking over. And one of the things that happens is when you get into a camera system, when you buy your first camera, maybe it is you spend £50 on a Canon 400D. What then happens is you stick with that camera brand, and that becomes your favorite camera brand because it's something you're used to. You feel comfortable with it, you know how to use it, and it works. And what you can do is buy lots and lots of nice lenses for your DSLR camera, and before you know it, you're going to find it hard to change. And then when you do have to move on, or when you are looking to move on to mirrorless, you might find you have to buy all new lenses. So perhaps, based on the fact that all of the camera world seem to think that DSLRs are now sort of an old technology and everyone should be using mirrorless, then perhaps it's time for you as a new photographer to maybe look at going straight into a mirrorless camera system. And I had a look to see what options there were for you. And if you've got 500 or less, then you could well get a Canon M50, which is a nice little camera, or a Nikon Z50 as well. They're all similar cameras. They do a really good job. And dare I say, you could always look at investing in a EM10 Mark II or an EM5 Mark II Olympus. And if you did that, you'd be onto a winner. But isn't it sad that there's likely that the DSLR camera could be coming to the end of its life and this mirrorless technology is taking over? But is there any benefit? What's good about a DSLR that's better than a mirrorless camera? That's something else I checked. And what I found was the main benefit of a DSLR camera was that you get an optical viewfinder. That's pretty much your main thing, whereas a mirrorless camera does all the other things. And what we find now, one of the reasons why the DSLR is coming to the end of its life, is that all the camera manufacturers are only spending their research and development money on mirrorless cameras. They're not looking at DSLRs. And in fact, I didn't know this, but it turns out that Canon and Nikon, etc., they've only it's been 4 years or so since they released a new DSLR camera, and all of their camera releases have been mirrorless. And that kind of makes sense. And that's the reason why eventually even the most die-hard DSLR users will probably end up switching to mirrorless. And it's borne out, especially when you look at the figures, and this is what amateur photographer was saying, that if you look at Nikon in particular, in 2025, they've sold 11-to-1 ratio. So for every 11 mirrorless cameras, they've sold one DSLR. And even though it's not quite so high for the other manufacturers, Canon, for instance, it's still quite high. So their sort of DSLR to mirrorless ratio is very high as well. So it kind of makes sense that they wouldn't look to develop and build new DSLR cameras because the market is dwindling. Apologies, that's kind of what I've read. I had no idea it was that bad, and it kind of makes sense to me really, if that's what the way the world's going. And I like the mirrorless cameras. I use my Olympus all the time. But I still use my Canon 400D. It still takes fantastic shots, and this Canon 100D, it's Canon 100D also takes great pictures. I'm really happy with both. What do you think? Do you think it's the end of the DSLR? Are you still in the DSLR camp? Let me know if you are. Thank you very much for listening to this kind of a comment video, opinion video more than anything. And if you've enjoyed it, why not give it a like? If you enjoy my photography content, why don't you subscribe to the channel? That'd be awesome if you did. Once again, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Cheerio.